between the education system failures, the financial failures, the additional taxes that are coming out, and since we've left Australia, because we've been out of Australia now for about 6 months, they're now looking to put capital gains tax sales on your family home. There's all these new taxes, these new regulations. The latest one I've just heard is they're going to be putting a car use tax now on top of the fuel excise. So not only are you paying extra tax on your fuel, you're also paying extra tax just to use the car and just register the car, then get it sent to you. It just seems every time you turn around, there's another tax, there's another expense, there's another loophole you got to jump through. And at the moment, I just think Australia is a lost cause. Like there's no benefit at all for us to be anywhere near Australia.
Edge Radio Australia, I'm Derek Whittaker from Blue Sky Factory with a very special for you today. It's usually a huge decision to leave family, friends, business networks, and the world you know. What Travis and Lawan Carter have discovered is there's a smart financial way to do this in creating a new start and effectively a system that they have found, leaving a system they have found oppressive. Today, not only do we have Travis and Lawan to share their story, but specialists that deal with what they've been able to achieve. Chartered practicing accountant Alex Mora from Mora Wealth joins us today on the couch with me. And over in Panama is lawyer Juan Jose Rodriguez Sanchez of LRNA Asociados. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So it's quite late there in Panama, I know, and I do appreciate you guys staying up into the early hours of the morning. We are going to start with your story, Travis and Lawan. What made you decide to leave Australia, of all things?
This has been a long time in the planning. So just to give people a bit of background, 2015, I had a very severe motorbike accident. I've got a lot of spinal damage. So we couldn't work a job anymore. Well, I couldn't work a job anymore. Lawan had just given birth, so Celeste, our daughter, was 7 weeks old. So she had to go back to work immediately. I was clearing about $110,000 a year, went to absolutely zero. There was very, very little support for us. And so through that, I was forced to start new sources of income. So what I found is that doesn't matter what I did, what direction I turned, whether it was investment properties, we built a granny flat in the backyard. It didn't matter what we did. The government just kept nailing us time and time again. And for me, it was a massive overreach of the government. Every time we tried to do something a little bit different to get ahead, the government would just shut us down almost immediately. So the one where I lost my shit and broke a few plates, we finished constructing a massive granny flat in our backyard. We'd had it all set up, ready to go for Airbnb. And then literally about 2 or 3 weeks before we finished the construction, they go, oh, by the way, we're passing this law. Now you have to register all the people who stay with you. You have to get a license off the government to do it. And even Airbnb wouldn't let us register. Even before the legislation had come out, we weren't even allowed to register with Airbnb until after all of this had done. And I'd cracked the shits at that point. And thankfully, I'd actually done a couple of Derek's courses at Blue Sky Factory. So I actually had a rough idea of what was going on and what I had to do at that point. But one of the biggest problems, we had kids. And so obviously Lawan here was very, very hesitant about leaving Australia, just because when you compare Australia to Vietnam, how much you can earn, the social structures and everything like that, it was really, really hard to convince Lawan to actually come with me and get out of Australia.
I'm going to ask Lawan a few questions on that, but Alex, I'm going to refer to you. Are you seeing a lot of clients just get headaches and frustrations with the rules being changed all the time by government?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only rules with what they're doing at the present in whatever form of investing, but sick and tired of how they're moving the goalposts as far as a superannuation and everything they're trying to put ahead for the future. They're just seeing it eroded on a year-by-year basis. I
think what is difficult here, that people have to understand from an investment perspective, I mean, building a granny flat out the back is quite a lot of investment.
It's huge
on your property.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And one nest egg for the government just to change the rules. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for a family, the average family, which I know you did it in a savvy way to build this, Travis. We'll get to that in a minute. But for the average person who doesn't have labor skills to put it together, construct it, this is a major investment. And to have the rules suddenly change, that's a big deal.
Huge deal. Yeah. Huge deal, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, because I mean, you got to think if they're doing it under interest and finance, week-to-week payments, they don't stop with the bank. They've got to keep going.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest killers for property investors when they're trying to make a final product and finish a constructed home. The time delays kill their profits.
Right. So, okay, thank you for putting us in perspective. And I think there were other issues that were going on, Travis. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that? You wanted to say something regarding
the big one, especially because of Luan. We were a single income family at the time because Luan had to work, I couldn't. So when all the mandates and all the lockdowns come through, Luan actually lost the job with the education department as well. And it was just, we were pushed, like we were backed into a corner, like there was literally nothing we could do. We were surviving literally gig from gig to gig. So we had to try and work out, okay, what industries were we allowed to work in? Who can pay us? How do we do this? We had to have a complete overhaul of everything that we did just to make ends meet. And we had to take a few shortcuts because, especially during the COVID period where we were locked down, we were really struggling. Like, I think Derek remembers some of the times we were like, we had no money whatsoever. And so it was a really, really tough situation we were in. And then on top of everything else, like, I'm very, very protective. I've got two extremely good-looking daughters. Like, they're both absolutely stunningly beautiful. And the problem is the school where we're at, first of all, they called the cops on me because I'm a chronic asthmatic. I can't physically wear a mask. I just can't breathe. So instead of saying, hey, is there something wrong with you? They called the cops on me. And the WA police were actually really cool with that. They just turned around and said, no, he's fine. He's good to go. And so they turned around and started trying to bring in the drag queen story time into the school. I'm thinking, sorry about my language, but that's BS. So I pulled the girls out of school for that one. And then we started homeschooling the girls. And then there was all these other regulations that they put on us as homeschoolers. And next thing you know, they pulled away our right to be able to homeschool our kids on top of everything else. And I'm like, I'm not putting my kids through that sort of stuff. So we had to send them back to the school. And so we have a saying with the girls at school, you're there for fun, you're not there to learn. I'll do your learning, I'll still homeschool you at home, but you're there to socialize. And the funny thing is they kept blitzing the school anyway. So I'm really, really proud of the girls for that one. But between the education system failures, the financial failures, the additional taxes that are coming out, and since we've left Australia, because we've been out of Australia now for about 6 months, they're now looking to put capital gains tax sales on your family home. There's all these new taxes, these new regulations. The latest one I've just heard is they're going to be putting a car use tax now on top of the fuel excise. So not only are you paying extra tax on your fuel, you're also paying extra tax just to use the car and just to register the car, then give you stamp duty. It just seems every time you turn around, there's another tax, there's another expense, there's another loophole you got to jump through. And at the moment, I just think Australia is a lost cause. Like there's no benefit at all for us to be anywhere near Australia. And just to survive, you need about 60 to 70,000 Australian per year. But to survive in Vietnam, for example, you only need 12 to 14,000 a year to survive. It's just chalk and cheese. There's absolutely zero reason for us to stay in Australia. So,
is this a common thing you're hearing with your clients, Alex, about kind of socialistic policies coming in and affecting everyday Australians to this extreme?
Well, just absolutely. We're seeing that to achieve the same level of lifestyle that people our age or our parents used to have. A middle income earner was around about the 70, 80,000. That's now around about 220 to have the same sort of lifestyle. Now, how many of us are getting $220,000 as an income? We are going far. We're going backwards quickly. Going backwards quickly because of taxes and all the other regulations.
Well, the cost of living is going up.
While the cost of living is going up.
Yeah.
Yep,
I mean, I don't know how average families are doing it in terms of rent at the moment. It's just crazy. I mean, the prices that we're seeing at the moment used to be for the mining towns only, and those guys could afford it because they're on big incomes. And
subsidized by the companies, the mining companies.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Look, Luan, I want to bring you into this story because obviously this was a huge decision for you and your family. I mean, how have you found it? I mean, but I'll get to this in a moment in terms of what you guys did to prepare to leave to Australia. But for the emotional reason, for a lot of people, they don't want to leave Australia because it means saying goodbye to family, friends, and community. What's that been like for you, Luan?
It has been very difficult. It was a very difficult decision for me. Before it got so bad, we were talking about leaving Australia. But it's always like, give it a couple of years and, until we tick certain boxes. And all of a sudden, Travis just had enough of it. And we had a lot of discussion. And it was not easy. It was hard, I have to say, because I do love Australia, like the people, the ways of life, and a lot of things about Australia, and I do miss it. But while we were in Australia, we were merely surviving. Like, we were doing well with our finance in the best we could in our situation. And because we're not type like to go out all the time or take away or things like that. So we do save money and things, but we wanted to get ahead. But every time we try to do something, it seems like we were being punished for it, and you just can't do it. And we could just survive. If we didn't have any other way, we'd probably just get stuck there and keep going and keep surviving. And another thing that made it very difficult to leave was that in Australia, you usually part of a system. If you have children, you get the family tax benefit payment and things like that. It does seem to help, and it's make people want to keep getting it. It's like an anchor to keep you there, being part of the system. And to be allowed to have those things, you got to meet certain criteria or whatever. So I feel that would make it hard for people to leave. Obviously, everything else, family, friends, neighbors. So it wasn't an easy decision at all. But, to the end of it, we were just really struggling. So I had to agree with Travis and make that decision.
Edge Radio Australia, I'm Derek Whittaker from Blue Sky Factory. We're talking to Travis and Luan, who have left Australia and started a new life overseas. We're going to talk about the process now and get into that in a moment. But is it fair to say, Alex, that the Australian taxation system is broken? And from that, I've been saying this for a while. I don't know if you agree with me, but I'd say we teach our children to work hard to get ahead. And then when they become adults, the taxation system punishes them for doing well by increasing the taxes upon them.
And now introducing taxes that the wealth that your family's built up, the parents have built up, and handing that over. They're looking at taxing all of that.
Inheritance tax.
Yeah.
And do you think this unrealized capital gains tax is going to come through, in your view?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at this stage, within the superannuation regime, right. Yes. Well, the Albanese government has they campaigned on it. They got in. They think they have their mandate. They'll be pushing it through. They had it out there to go through the system prior to the last federal election. It didn't get passed at that stage. They hadn't introduced it through. They removed it. They'll be bringing it in again. For
those who don't know what unrealized capital gains are, it's basically when an investment goes up in value, but you haven't sold it to actually realize the gain, the actual realization of the profit. And what they want to do is tax it while it's still going up, but hasn't been sold. That's effectively what's being proposed here.
Can I just add a little bit to it? It not only is the tax payable on unrealized gains, but the tax will be payable by the individual, not even by the super fund.
Right.
The individual then can elect to ask the super fund to make that payment,
right,
through a process through filling out forms and doing all of that.
Right.
But initially, the bill actually goes to the individual.
Oh yeah. Which is legally not the same entity or individual.
Exactly.
It's a different party completely.
Absolutely. So if for whatever reason, such as super fund has all their investments in real property, has commercial properties, whatever it may be, and then you just can't sell, the back room or the extension, and your super fund doesn't have the cash to actually make it. The initial bill belongs to the individual, so then it's the individual who's stuck with making this payment.
And that individual can't touch the super.
Can't touch it
penalised anyway.
Yeah.
So they've got to raise more capital to then pay the bill on behalf of the retirement fund, which is supposed to support them rather than burden them.
Absolutely.
It's just crazy. Thank you for that clarity. That's brilliant. I want to say this too. You guys didn't, Travis and Luan, you didn't just pull up stumps one day and decide to do this. I've been working with you guys for a number of years. Did that help you in the process of making this decision?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was a frog in a well. I thought, to get rich in Australia, you had to buy property. So we had actually a really interesting and sideways travel into property ownership because of the way I had to earn our income. We weren't able to use anything that I earned to finance the loan. And so we were solely reliant on Luan's income. So what we ended up doing, we actually purchased probably two of the cheapest properties in Australia. There was two duplexes, 70,000 for them both. We got a mortgage to buy them, so it wasn't our money. But what happened is one of the conditions of the sale was that they had to give us a rental evaluation stating that we could get X amount of dollars per week as a rental for these properties. So I don't know if that's legal these days, but back then it was legal, so we weren't doing anything wrong. But using that rental income, we were then able to supplement Luan's income to be able to buy the house that we had in Perth, in the southern suburbs of Perth. So we got to the point, and just the session before, I just want to raise a point. We had to sell those properties because we were getting to the point where we couldn't afford to keep both properties at the same time. And I don't know if it's because we had a bad accountant or this is just the way the government works, but what was happening, the losses for the properties in Geraldton were being added to Luan's income when calculating her tax. So even though we were losing money on repairing and fixing up these houses and making sure they were rentals, Luan's income was actually going up because of the money that we spent on her investment properties, which then also put into jeopardy family tax benefits A and B for the kids and all these other sort of stuff. So it was, Australia as a whole was just getting to the point where it was impossible. And something that Derek probably doesn't know yet, they're also talking about bringing out that unrealized gain on your family home as well. So it's just the tax side of things is just getting absolutely impossible for literally everyone across Australia. I don't know how normal people are surviving still in Australia. I honestly don't.
You have worked out a way to have an income while overseas. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
So, and I probably forgot to answer your first question there, Derek, so I'll get that one now. When I first met Derek, one of my side hustles was with a company called Global Wealth Club. They actually asked me to do the broadcasting for them, and Derek was the keynote speaker for this one event. And I still remember this speech to today because he actually asked permission to take everyone on a journey. And I think it was one of the best lead-ups in any speeches I've ever heard. And it was at that event that I was like, holy shit, like what the hell are we doing? Now, this was back in, I think it was 2021 where we actually did that event. And that was the time that my mind was open and I realized there's a better way. From there, I actually enrolled to do Derek's free one-day course. And then from there, I did his Building the Wealth Foundation course, which just taught me about the banking systems and how that all worked and where it actually came from and why the monetary system is the way that it works. And then from there, I knew I had to do something else to form another source of income because Luan's income just wasn't enough. We were going backwards rapidly. And so then I actually bit the bullet and did the, I think you call it the advanced options trading course.
20 weeks advanced trading course, yeah. Yeah.
And it was really, really good because what it does, and it really surprised me how little money you actually need to be able to afford live in other countries. In Australia, it's just, don't even bother trying. It will help you in Australia if you don't have a lot of capital, but in other countries, we were able to build up our portfolio very, very quickly over about a 6-month period to the point where our portfolio was actually earning us enough money to be able to live in Vietnam. So, and I think at that point it was, am I allowed to say how big our portfolio was?
Sure, it's up to you guys. Up to you guys completely.
I'm probably going to get slapped for this one, but our initial portfolio was only about $16,000 Australian. And that was sufficient to pay for our basic living expenses. Like, we're not living like kings. We're not staying in hotels and hanging out every night, but just to cover our rent and our utilities in Vietnam, a portfolio of that size was sufficient to be able to sustain our lifestyle. So it's phenomenal how little money you actually need to survive in other countries compared to Australia.
It is indeed. Our cost of living is huge here. Excuse me, Edge Radio Australia. I'm Derek Whittaker with a Panama special, speaking to Travis and Luan and how they've made the big decision to leave Australia and basically go for their life purpose overseas. Juan, I'm getting to you in a moment, all right? So you're holding tight. But I want to ask you, Alex, before people actually move to a different country, if they want to leave Australia and legally not have to pay taxes, and I stress the word legally, and none of what we're showing today is general specific advice. You've got to talk to the accountants and the lawyers that are, and financial planners who are licensed to do this, okay? This is not one broad strike meets all, so I want to preface what we have to say here. But if they want to do this legally and step out of that system, what are some of the things they have to be mindful of?
Well, in essence, what we're doing is you're establishing that you have left Australia and Australia has stopped being your home, for an easy way to explain it. So essentially saying Australia has stopped being your home, but more, just as importantly, is that another country has become your home. So you not only have to show that you've left Australia and disengaged from Australia, but you also need to anchor in another country, for argument. So in Australia, you're doing everything that somebody who's leaving Australia would do. You would sell your car. You would either put your home as an investment property, or you would sell it. You can maintain bank accounts in Australia. You'll be doing that for a commercial reason. You feel secure in the Australian banking system, even if you don't like the Australian tax system. But then, secondly, you then have to establish that you have anchored in another country.
Okay.
So what we mean by that is you can show that you've got a medium to long-term lease in another country. The visas allow you to be there for an extended period of time. You're opening bank accounts in another country. You're doing everything that you would do when you've anchored into a new country. You need both of those things to disengage officially from Australia. So you can't necessarily say you've left Australia, you are now living on a yacht, and no country has become your new anchor or your new country that you are now, for argument's sake, essentially paying tax in that country. So you need to do both. You can't just be a nomad straight out of Australia. You can move to another country, anchor there, and then become a nomad for tax purposes. But once you've disengaged with Australia, that's no longer Australia's issue.
So there are how many steps to do that to qualify? But there's about 7 to 8 different steps that somebody have to check on the checklist to go whether they're a resident of Australia or not.
I wouldn't call them steps as such. It's more weight of proof.
Right.
So there's no necessarily one end all and be all, but you can show by the weight of proof that you have left Australia, and you show by the weight of proof that you have anchored in another country. And another country has become your home.
Certainly sounds like a lot of strategic planning, which can be done in advance.
Absolutely.
In
planning.
Process.
Yeah, absolutely. You plan. There are checklists you can always just work your way through to make sure you've got that weight of proof.
Yeah.
But it's a weight of proof.
And I think what's really important here is to understand a lot of people have a hard time letting go of assets, selling the cars, offloading a lot of that. How did you guys deal with that, Travis Lewan? Were you okay with that, or was it hard to let go?
The houses were easy. The houses were easy to get rid of because they were anchors. Like, my hardest asset.
It wasn't easy for me.
For me, it was. I didn't care about it. By that stage, and this is really sad because I still love the Australian people, but I'm so angry with the Australian government and the way it's run. I detest Australian property now. I just want it out. Like I can't explain how angry and frustrated I was. So selling the houses was easy. Well, I won't say it was easy. There's a few times I absolutely raged out the people buying the houses because they were just being absolute wankers. But the two items that I nearly cried when I had to get rid of. The first one was Rusty, my 1998 diesel Hilux. It was the slowest piece of crap you will ever see. And Derek's driven it, so he knows what it's like. The brakes barely worked on it. It was terrible. There was more rust than car in it. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It pissed off all the environmentalists. It was great. And the second thing was I had a 1885 Blithner upright piano that I found on the side of the road for free. It still had the original ivory and ebony keys on it. So I was in the process of trying to restore it, even though I had no idea what I was doing, and I sat in the shed for about 6 years. That was the other thing I didn't want to get rid of, but I had no choice. And so they were my two hardest things.
Of all the places that you've chosen to go to, why Panama, guys? Panama
is a weird country. It is so strange. First of all, they have anonymous banking still. I think that they're one of the only countries left over with this one. I'll let Juan explain that better later. The other one is they're a country that allows residency without actually living in here. So we can jump from country to country, but like Alex was saying, our anchor will still be Panama. And of all the other countries, from my understanding, there's only two. There was Panama and Greece is the other one. But Greece needed something like 750,000 US dollars to be able to anchor into Greece and not live there. Panama made it actually really, really affordable. And again, I can't give legal advice, so I'll let Juan explain that one. But for what we wanted, because ultimately we'll probably end up in America, because I have a construction background, especially in Detroit, you can pick up a lot of really nice, like, I won't say nice, they're falling apart houses for like $1,000, and then you just renovate and build them. They're made out of timber, so it's relatively easy jobs, provided you don't get shot. But other than that, America and going through Panama means that we can just jump from between Vietnam and Vietnam and the United States. And if we want to go to a holiday into Canada, you just jump the border. It's easy. It sort of like opens up gateway to the rest of the world. Like at the moment, we can go to any country. It doesn't matter because we're anchored into Panama. And they've also got the Friendly Nation visa program as well. So
I can't stress more enough that people need to get advice before making these kind of decisions in terms of countries and jurisdictions, because there's other international agreements between different countries and this sort of thing. Juan, I'm going to direct this to you. For those who don't know, Juan is a lawyer in Panama with his own practice. Juan, how hard is it for Australians to apply for residency in your country?
How easy? Okay.
How easy is it to apply in?
Yes. I think Panama is perfect, the perfect plan B, because it offers easiest procedure, and for the people from Australia can get the residence here under the Panamanian Friendly Nations. People from Australia can get that residence with simple documents. Only needs to set up a company here in Panama, open a bank account, put it $5,000, and in a couple of weeks can get the residence. Right? It is simple. Panama is a territorial tax system. Means that your assets will be protected and don't pay taxes here in Panama. So it's attractive. And it's one of the attractive of Panama to bring money or assets from outside and don't pay taxes here in Panama. So that is the attractive. It is only, I think that it's the only country in the world that you can do that. And also we cannot use the central bank. We have the dollar as a current fiat, and it's attractive for people foreign to come to Panama and get that residence.
Juan, from your perspective, what has Panamanian banking got going for it compared to the rest of the world?
I think Tower Bank at this moment is the bank, the only bank in the world that you can change USD cryptocurrencies and change to dollar at the same time in your bank account directly. You can send USDT in the blockchain of Ethereum to your bank account, and then you can change the fiat to USDT and vice versa, the USDT to dollars at the same time. It's instant.
And the thing about Panama,
I don't see any bank in the world who can do that at this moment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, when doing so, this doesn't incur any capital gains tax when moving currency from fiat to crypto and exchanging for different cryptos in Panama, correct?
Exactly. Foreign incomes doesn't pay taxes in Panama. The tax income Panama is territorial. Means that internet, blockchain, nothing at this moment, nothing of that pay taxes in Panama.
Right. So it's seen more as a currency as opposed to a commodity or asset. Not asset,
No,
but commodity.
at this moment we see that commodity USDT like a stable coin.
Right.
When you sold your crypto, you get USDT, and it's a stable coin. Not we don't see that like an asset. We see that Ethereum or we see Bitcoin, we see XRP like an asset. But when you change or when you sold your crypto, you will get USDT or a stable coin. At this
Certainly
moment,
not,
you don't pay taxes because it is a stable coin.
certainly not the case in Australia with crypto, is it, Alex?
No, right now they just schmozzled it and made it really complex. But every transaction, any swap, any conversion to fiat, taxable event.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Really, really interesting, the different comparisons. Yes, Travis, you want to add on to that? Go for it.
To add on that one, because with the crypto blockchain, it's considered out of country income. So therefore, Panama doesn't even look at it. So because they're a territorial tax system, it's got to be income earned in Panama. So through a job, if you own property in Panama and you're getting rental income, that's what's taxed. Or if you've got a pay-as-you-go job where a business hires you and pays you in Panama, then you pay tax on that. But blockchain, cryptos, foreign investments, like let's say you own property in another country, any of your earnings in Australia is not taxed in Panama because they just don't care about it. They don't even look at it.
I want to just ask, are there any pitfalls that we must be aware of? One, I want to direct this to you. As Australians, if Australians are going to come over there, are there any things that they've got to be on the alert for in terms of residency in Panama that they should look out for?
No, I don't see any problem because the program of Friendly Nations Visa is under Australia. Citizens from Australia can come and there are flexibilities to stay here. They can take the residence and go back, and they don't need to live here in Panama. And just they can, if they don't want it, right? Because there are. This is for entrepreneurs, retired people, jubilados, or families who wanted to be protected his asset outside of Australia.
Derek Whitaker, Edge Radio Australia. I'm from Blue Sky Factory with providing education for people for what they define as financial freedom, which is different for everyone. I'm surrounded by experts here. On my right, I've got Alex Mora, chartered practicing accountant here in Australia. Overseas there, we've got a lawyer, Juan, who has his own practice as a lawyer. We've got, of course, a case study, Travis and Juan, who have left Australia and said, bye-bye, we want to start a new life overseas. How did you go with language? I've got somebody here who understands Spanish on my right. I've got Juan over there. That's your native tongue. But if somebody's going to go and do residency in Panama and also deal with banks, I mean, I don't know. Si, senor. How do you deal with the language there? How have you gone?
Google Translate.
But we do that all together, right?
Yeah.
We are here to help all the people who can come to Panama, and we do this together. We help them hand to hand to go to everywhere.
Juan's been very helpful. Whatever business activity, he will take us to the places and be the translator, guide us through the whole thing.
I cannot recommend Juan enough. So we finally got out of it. So Australians coming to Panama, we don't need a passport. So we don't need a visa. We just walk straight through. Yep. We didn't get out till about 9:30 at night. Juan picked us up because all four of us, because both the kids had to come to Panama as well. I think we had something like 10 suitcases between all of us. So Juan rocked up. He had his card. Then he also hired another driver to take our luggage. We went with Juan. He brought us to the hotel. When we were setting up the bank accounts, he went into the bank with us to make sure that we're getting the correct account. He was sitting there translating everything for us, all the government documents that we needed. He had them all translated, did the whole entire lot for us. We've now set up our business in Panama as well. So on Monday, we're off to Tower Bank again to go create some more bank accounts. So Juan's picking us up. He's taking us to the bank. So every time, he's even taking us shopping. Like we didn't know where the food shops were. So he came and picked us up and took us to Super 99. Fantastic shops, by the way. They're awesome. So he's been literally holding our hand all the way through this whole entire process. So my Spanish is non-existent. About the only word I know is uno, and that's from a card game. So Google Translator has been okay. It's the biggest problem. Try and get a telephone SIM card that can actually make phone calls. It's been a nightmare because that's the only time mine was busy and we couldn't get him to help us. But he told us, go to this place, tell them what you need, just give them this, they'll sort it out. So they gave us a data chip you can't make phone calls on. So it's like, okay, fine. But a month's data is like $15. Unlimited data on your mobile phone. That's what I'm saying. Like it's Australian in Australia, that'd be $100. It's just, again, sorry, but Spanish wise, amazing. Bills wise, anyway. But one as a whole, I cannot stress enough. He's worth his weight in gold. So he was really, really good.
Travis, I'm going to get you to check for any questions from our audience. If you have something that you want to ask us or ask Travis and Luan and their experience, or even our experts here, Alex and Luan, by all means, feel free to do that. So while that's coming up, Alex, do you want to add anything to this in terms of any other considerations that Australians need to make to make that big leap?
I think one thing I'd like to add is with the assets that you do leave in Australia, if you've become a non-tax resident, which is different from citizenship. Let's make that clear. Tax residency is not citizenship. So you can maintain to be an Australian citizen, but move your tax residency, your home, to Panama. But just be also very aware that there are tax consequences for selling investments or assets in Australia while you're non-resident.
Right.
One of the classics is that you no longer have that 50% discount if you've had an asset for more than 12 months. As a non-resident, that discount isn't available.
Right.
If the property was your home in Australia, of course, we would not pay capital gains on your home. Becoming a non-resident, even though you've lived in that property for 99% of the time, you lose that exemption when you've become a non-tax resident.
That's a great point.
So prior to living, assess what your investments are, assess which ones you want to keep, because there's consequences, tax consequences in Australia for selling a property or investments when you're no longer a tax resident.
That's a great point. And timing is very, very important too, because sometimes you wonder if people should actually sell all their assets in the one financial year or spread it out over 2 financial years, over the June, July, crossover their timeline.
Yeah. Just continuing with that, sorry to interrupt. Real property, land, those assets are always linked to Australia.
Okay. Yep.
If you have other investments, be it crypto, shares, managed funds, you could choose at the time when you're leaving to say, I am selling those for income tax purposes in Australia, and realizing the gain or losses at that time when you've left Australia. So in that year that you've ceased being an Australian tax resident, you are paying at that time the tax on the growth or losses on your investments. Real property is different. That happens when you physically sell it, which is another consideration if you want to keep those, particularly if it was your home, for example.
Great points. How are we going with questions there, Travis? We got any that our audience wants to ask?
I've had a couple of PM personal messages saying, how much did it cost me? So I'll reply to those messages later. But I'll be honest with you, our biggest expense was actually the flights coming to Panama. So the other one is, aren't you worried about it being a scam? No, because he's physically right here. Like, if one tries to scam me, I just punch him in the head now. And we've already got our residency. So, and these cool little printouts. The other one is, do I miss Australia? No. To be honest with you, since we've left in the last 6 months, every time I check the Australian news, which is nearly on a daily basis, I'm seeing a new tax, I'm seeing a new regulation, I'm seeing more and more government waste, like the machete bins in Victoria, like that's just pulling the piss now. But I just, personally, I don't miss Australia. I think, and I'm scared of where it's going to.
I think the big thing that Travis and Luan mentioned is the cost of living. The fact that now there's a huge weight off your shoulder.
Cost of living is 50% less in Panama than Australia, than Sydney and Melbourne.
50% less the cost of living in Panama than in Sydney or Melbourne. There you go.
And that just provides the weight off your shoulders as a family. And you know that all of a sudden everything is 50% cheaper. And you can put away to savings. You actually feel there's a big, the concrete shoes you're wearing is off. You're wearing Nikes.
What I admire about these guys is that they've actually started an income stream or skill prior to actually going offshore, and I think that's important too, because it's one thing to sell all your assets and then but then you're chewing into your capital as you live there. Because I don't know, and one, are they able to work in Panama? Does this residency allow them to? Obviously, they've got businesses and that they could do that. But I mean, Travis and Luan have learned the skills of through Blue Sky Factory of trading the markets, and also of crypto. Luan did our crypto courses and stuff like that. But if people don't have those skills, what do they need to look out for? One.
Okay. Obviously, that residence is to people who come to with money, right? Who invest in corporation and to set up a company and his own business, right? And it's good for traders, entrepreneurs, investors, or retirement jubilados, or family who wants to be protected his asset. That is
so good.
So yes, I can work in Panama now. Now that we have our residency,
we just don't speak the language. So.
Yeah. So, but the amount of like, let's say you do come over here and you've sold all your property and everything like that, and you're trying to find some form of income while you're here. The amount of people that are running around on motorbikes doing the Uber deliveries, I forget what it's a Spanish version of Uber Eats. There's a lot of work in Panama. There's an insane amount of construction going on over here. So for construction workers, if they want to come over, there's that sort of industry here as well. Real estate, and because if you get out of Panama a little bit, there's a whole heap of little towns where a lot of the buildings are going older, but as the population is getting bigger, those towns are now being revitalized. So there's a lot of push to get people into the suburbs to start rebuilding a lot of these houses as well. So I find the agriculture is nowhere near as big in Panama compared to Australia, but I wouldn't put the construction industry isn't far behind, which I was pleasantly surprised. And the service industry is here. So everywhere you go, there's people waiting on you. So you go to the supermarkets and like you do your shopping, and then there's someone there to pack your bags for you, carry the bags out to the car and stuff like that. So Panama's got a very big service-based industry here as well. So there's a lot of work going on at the moment in Panama. And Juan was telling us that recently there's been like a change in the way the government policies around how they operate in Panama. So a lot of it's changed. To be honest with you, we're probably still going to spend a lot of our time more in Vietnam than what we will in Panama. It's just, I want to go to one of these questions that's come up on my phone as well. They want to know how do we get in contact with Juan and Alex? So what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll put, probably the easiest way, just email the station or email Derek.
Okay. Obviously, that residence is to people who come to with money, right? Who invest in corporation and to set up a company and his own business, right? And it's good for traders, entrepreneurs, investors, or retirement jubilados, or family who wants to be protected his asset. That is
so good.
So yes, I can work in Panama now. Now that we have our residency,
we just don't speak the language. So.
Yeah. So, but the amount of like, let's say you do come over here and you've sold all your property and everything like that, and you're trying to find some form of income while you're here. The amount of people that are running around on motorbikes doing the Uber deliveries, I forget what it's a Spanish version of Uber Eats. There's a lot of work in Panama. There's an insane amount of construction going on over here. So for construction workers, if they want to come over, there's that sort of industry here as well. Real estate, and because if you get out of Panama a little bit, there's a whole heap of little towns where a lot of the buildings are going older, but as the population is getting bigger, those towns are now being revitalized. So there's a lot of push to get people into the suburbs to start rebuilding a lot of these houses as well. So I find the agriculture's not nowhere near as big in Panama compared to Australia, but I wouldn't put the construction industry isn't far behind, which I was pleasantly surprised. And the service industries here, so everywhere you go, there's people waiting on you. So you go to the supermarkets and like you do your shopping, and then there's someone there to pack your bags for you, carry the bags out to the car and stuff like that. So Panama's got a very big service-based industry here as well. So there's a lot of work going on at the moment in Panama. And Juan was telling us that recently there's been like a change in the way the government policies around how they operate in Panama. So a lot of it's changed. To be honest with you, we're probably still going to spend a lot of our time more in Vietnam than what we will in Panama. It's just, it's just, I want to go to one of these questions that's come up on my phone as well. They want to know how do we get in contact with Juan and Alex? So what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll put, probably the easiest way, just email the station or email Derek.
Just go through my website, blueskyfactory.com.au, BLUSKY factory.com.au. I can get on the phone to you and we can talk through exactly what you need and go from there, because certainly we're going to have to address things from an Australian perspective first, be strategic about that and work through the process, and we can contact the people as necessary. I just want to ask this, Luan, how the children are adjusting this. There is the financial side to this, and it can make all sense, but there's the reality of actually leaving your homeland and doing that. And of course, your kids, if I can say this, they're not in their teen years where they've put down a lot of their network and my friends are really, really important yet. But how are they coping with this? Is it a great big adventure, or do they miss their friends?
I think it's both. They do miss their friends in Australia, but somehow they adapt to this traveling. I mean, last year I wanted them to learn Vietnamese, so I sent them to Vietnam for 3 months and stay with my family. So that was difficult for them, but I think that somehow it was like a test, and from there, I think they just get used to it now. So they're good. They're enjoying it and they make the most of it, being kids, and they have their cousins in Vietnam, and they do talk to their friends in Australia on the Facebook Messenger. So yeah, I think they're good.
It's not to say we don't have every now and then we get waterworks and stuff like that, but it's especially Celeste, like crybaby. But the kids are resilient. I think if you're going to do something like this, the younger they are, the better. They can bounce back the fastest when they're small. And I have to say, I was really expecting a lot of grief from our family, like when we said we're leaving. I think my mum cried the most when she found out we were leaving. But since then, she's been to Vietnam with us. She came for about 10 days. We spent a lot of time, when we were in the process of selling the house, we spent a lot of time at mum's and our dad's. So we got to have some really good quality time with people before we left, and I think that really helped the kids as well. But Facebook Messenger has been brilliant. The kids are now learning how to play. Like, I watch what they play. We get reports through the computer on what sites they're going to, stuff like that. But they're now, a lot of their homeschooling, because we don't send them to school here. All the Duolingo, the IXL and all that sends us reports how they're going for school. They can actually chat to other kids at the same time, and there's all these other online gaming things where they can actually interact with kids. So we're kind of like, we're not just dumping them into the digital world, but the digital world has been amazing for connecting everything. And when Celeste went to Vietnam for that 3 months and learned Vietnamese, I don't think they learned a single word in Vietnamese, but they taught the other kids a lot of English in return. So it's just like,
I'm going to get to one on a final question. We're going to wrap up in a minute, but I just want to ask this. Medical guys, before I get to the question to Juan, how you, Travis and Luan, in terms of medical, I mean, that's a big deal. Australia's medical system's fairly cheap for the most part if somebody has to go to hospital or whatever. What are your thoughts there in terms of internationally?
We have paid for health insurance, but that's mainly for when we go to America. So I haven't been hospitalized in Panama yet, so I don't know how much. Yeah.
Yes, there are private social security. Our system looks like the United States. because they were here a lot of time. There are private. The Social Security, the best is private. You have to pay to get the.
Any final words as we wrap up, Alex, from you?
I guess for me, I just wanted to stress how the Panama option, what I was surprised by it was the small amount of investment that you needed to set this up. Travis was mentioning that in Greece it was a $750,000 investment you needed to make.
US.
Yeah. Whereas in Panama, it's not anywhere near that. Years back, Panama was the hub, was there where everyone wanted to do, because once again, the investment to get citizenship or residency was so cheap. Now we in Australia were advised that the rules had changed and it had become expensive, where you did need to invest 700,000. Speaking with one, we became aware that that's not necessarily, yes, some rules were brought in, but that isn't all the rules. There are other options available, which is where Juan is all over and facilitates with that. So all of a sudden, for me, eyes were open. Panama was once again an option available to us.
Brilliant. Juan, any final words from you?
I'm getting this message a lot about how much it actually costs us to do it. So I don't mind actually saying it. In Australian dollars, the fees, the services, the payments to the government and all that sort of stuff, it was about $15,000 to actually get our residency. The biggest expense we're going to have is we have to keep coming back to Panama. So we've got to do it this time, then in 6 months we've got to do it again, and then 2 years after that we've got to do it again. So we've got to make 3 trips to Panama to actually get a permanent, like, unlimited residency.
And that's because you're choosing to live outside of Panama.
Well, yeah, if I stayed in Panama the whole way through, you just do it once, but because we're not staying here permanently, we've got to do it 3 times. To set up the business, I think it was about $4,000 to set it all up. Sorry, I'm just doing the conversions in my head as I run. So it was about $4,000 to set up the businesses, and that's including the apostille for the documentation to get that all certified as well. So that's the biggest, actually one of the biggest things that I thought was a problem as well. Just please remember, if you are becoming a resident of Panama, you do actually need to leave your original birth certificate. And
yes, it's 3 simple: citizen passport, a certificate of good health, and a police record apostille, and if the people has dependent, certificate of marriage or daughter birth.
So our birth certificate, our marriage certificate has to stay in Panama. So before you come to Panama, make sure you go to the government, get a copy. So like an original copy. So they're both originals. Keep one in Australia and take one with you. That will stay in Panama. So that's one thing I would have done differently. We had to order it online as a replacement. So, but other than that, yeah, total cost less than $20,000 to actually become a resident, plus flights. For the business, you can get away with less than $5,000.
It's a big decision to do this, and it's difficult, but once we made it and we settled in Vietnam and things, it's so much easier and so much less stress. And we're just a lot happier. We've found our way. We were still sort of halfway there because our plan is to be in the USA next year. So at this time, a lot of traveling and just setting up everything. But yeah, we're getting there and we're happy with our decision.
Fantastic. If you have any other further questions, certainly get in touch with us here at blueskyfactory.com.au. Happy to look at that with you and see if this is something that, or at least something to explore and go from there if it's right for you. I can't stress enough, you've got to get the right advice because everybody's circumstances is really, really different. All right. It's been great talking to you guys. Again, thank you so much over there at Panama for staying up and drinking the coffee and keeping the wide awake in the early hours of the morning. We do appreciate it. Alex, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Taking time out of your busy schedule. This has been Edge Radio Australia.